The season begins by introducing us to Jack Ryan, who almost collides with James Greer, who he later finds out is his boss. Oh shit. Jack introduces himself and announces he's flagged many Yemen transactions involving an individual by the name Suleiman. We find out James Greer is returning from forced time off, though the reasons why are not yet clear. Jack Ryan goes to sleep and we find out he is dealing with some PTSD, and we see some serious scars that we assume are tied to it. Unable to fall back asleep, Jack Ryan heads into work to dig into his case. Jack Ryan discovers a shell company moving millions of dollars and explains to James that Suleiman is clearly not afraid of being caught and therefore his attack must be imminent. James rejects Jack's request to free Suleiman's assets, telling him, "You're not there yet," and dismisses Jack. Jack goes behind James's back and frees Suleiman's assets. James finds out about Jack Ryan's little maneuver and calls him into his office to explain that he had ordered surveillance on the bank and Jack just blew it. Now Suleiman is going to know that someone is onto him. James pulls up some files on Jack Ryan and finds out that he was the sole survivor of a helicopter crash that killed 12. We find out Jack used to work for Joe Miller on Wall Street. Joe offers to bribe Jack for government intel that he can use to make plays in the market. Jack declines the offer, and then we meet Joe's daughter, Dr. Kathy Mueller. The two are smitten with each other immediately, and Jack gets to look like a badass in front of his new love interest as a helicopter flies in to whoosh him off to some unknown extraordinary mission. Yep, she liked that. The helicopter takes Jack to James, who explains they are going to Yemen right now to interrogate the individuals involved. Jack's concerned that he's just an analyst who writes reports. He can't go to Yemen. At Black Site Cobalt in Yemen, we meet who appears to be the head honcho Omar Ravini and his bodyguard, Sufan something or rather. Jack uses the phone on Omar to confirm that the number is the same as the one responsible for the money transfers he was tracking. Locals exchange some bodies for cash so that the Americans can cross those names off of their list. But wait, we find out that one of those corpses is actually alive and armed. Jack has no idea and continues to ask the supposed bodyguard what he knows about a man by the name of Suleiman. When, boom, there's an attack on the base. Living Corpse Guy executes Omar and asks to see the other captive next. Jack and Living Corpse Guy go at it in an epic hand-to-hand battle, and he's holding his own until it turns into a 2v1. Jack is about to lose when he gets his hand on a grenade. Suleiman says, "I thought you were an analyst." Jack says, "I thought you were a bodyguard." Then it hits him, and he says, "It's you, Suleiman." Suleiman and the Living Corpse Guy escape the compound. We find out that the Living Corpse Guy was Suleiman's brother, Aziz. Two of Suleiman's men assassinate a priest. James Greer gives Suleiman's cell phone to Jack Ryan so he can try to guess the password. Jack realizes he's only got 10 attempts before the phone deletes all of the information it holds. He also can't stop thinking about Dr. Kathy. James and Jack realize that Suleiman has been in prison based on how he accepts the handcuffs. They also realize his SIM card was from France and use that information to find him in the French prison system. Jack notices his prison ID number has the same number of characters as his phone's password. Could it be his password? Yes it could. They trace one of the numbers on the phone and it leads them to a building in France being used to launder the money. They raid the building and Aziz makes it out the back, but Jack sees him and pursues him briefly before losing him. The girl holding the dead man's switch gets shot and blows up the apartment. Suleiman gets back home and realizes his wife Haneen is upset. She explains that he's changed, she doesn't even know him anymore. We meet Victor, a military drone pilot whose kill count has begun to weigh heavily on his mind. The dollar bills won in bets at work are a constant reminder of his targets, and in an attempt to rid himself of this money, he goes gambling, but ends up turning the $107 into $29,400. Jack finds the house that Aziz hid at. While there, Jack pieces together that Aziz was using a video game to communicate with Suleiman. Haneen secretly collects passports for herself and her children, but Suleiman finds the passports and burns them in front of her. Now desperate, Haneen tries to get her kids to run away with her, but her son rushes back to tell her father. Haneen is forced to leave without her son. Suleiman sends his hound Yazid after Haneen and the children. Yazid catches up with Haneen and the children, but just before he can rape and kill her, Victor disobeys direct orders and fires a drone strike at Yazid, which saves Haneen and the children. While they're tailing Aziz, Sandrine asks Jack about the women in his life and convinces him to ask her on a date with confidence. He tries it, and Dr. Kathy is definitely on board. Suleiman buys Al Adwan's hostages, 12 doctors from Doctors Without Borders. But he doesn't stop there. He then buys Al Adwan's army right from under him. Jack Ryan and Sandrine stop at a gas station. Jack notices that a car has been hotwired. Aziz comes up behind Jack, but Sandrine saves his life. Sandrine gets help from the local cop, who immediately gets ended by Aziz. Jack catches up with Aziz, and after a nerve-wracking battle, Jack ends up with a gun drawn on him. Aziz reaches for a weapon, and Jack is forced to shoot his best chance at gathering intel on Suleiman. Jack returns to Sandrine to find her dead. Though it's been an emotionally brutal trip, Jack finally hears back from Kathy and receives a much-needed moment of happiness. When Jack arrives back home, he takes Kathy out to dinner and introduces her to an old family friend. The date goes well and she invites Jack in for a nightcap. I think I know where this is going. Yep, that's where it's going. Then we are taken back to France, where gas bombs are walked into a church and set off, with 300 plus churchgoers locked inside. The gas kills everyone. Suleiman claims responsibility for the killings and then promises there will be more. Jack Ryan comes up with a plan. He's going to use the game to contact Suleiman and pretend to be his brother, Aziz. Victor finds out that the man on the moped he killed was misidentified and actually wasn't the intended target. Haneen gets to the border and promises information on her husband in exchange for extradition to a new country. But since she's unable to prove to the border agent that she's Suleiman's wife, she panics and decides to be smuggled out of the country illegally. Jack Ryan finds out that someone in Turkey is claiming to be Suleiman's wife, but nobody knows if she's telling the truth. Jack uses the game to contact Suleiman, but Jack fails to say goodbye the way Aziz would have, tipping Suleiman off that he is not talking to his brother after all. With his cover blown, Jack asks one last question to confirm that Suleiman's wife has left him, which means the woman in the Turkish camp claiming to be Suleiman's wife is telling the truth. It's now a race to see who can get to Haneen first. James and Jack head to Turkey and team up with a lifelong criminal to find Haneen. Jack doesn't like the plan one bit, but Greer asks him to trust him. Yazid catches up to Haneen at the beach with orders from Suleiman to murder her and bring back the children. James and Jack show up just in time to save Haneen and the children, but Yazid is only willing to give up Haneen. He's going to take the children with him. Knowing that Haneen won't help them if her children are with Suleiman, James Greer pretends to agree and then kills Aziz with a headshot. Jack Ryan convinces Haneen to cooperate, but she asks him to save her son. James Greer finally reveals what happened in Karachi that derailed his career. A plan went to hell and he ended up having to kill an informant to save his own life. Greer says the job requires compromise. Jack believes you can do the job without making compromises. Greer says, I know you do, because I used to believe the same thing. Victor makes his way to the father of the misidentified man that he killed. He gives him all the money that he won gambling. Though they are unable to communicate at all, the two seem to have a moment where they completely understand each other. Back in the States, Dr. Kathy is working on an Ebola case, but oddly, this type of Ebola was supposed to be eradicated years ago. The only way this strand of Ebola could be around is if someone dug up a corpse. And that's exactly what Suleiman did. Thanks to Haneen's intel, surveillance on Suleiman is already up. They confirmed that Suleiman is there, but also that he has a dozen hostages from Doctors Without Borders. It also appears that one of them is a personal friend of the president. The president orders a ground assault to extract 13 hostages, the 12 doctors, and Haneen's son. The CIA makes an uncharacteristic mistake and gives Haneen's daughter an internet-connected device. Who thought that was a good idea? The daughter then uses it to contact her brother and tell him that they are alive and in America. Suleiman finds this conversation and realizes that if they have Haneen, that means they know his location. The timing of all of this couldn't be worse for the ground team, who thinks they are going in to surprise Suleiman. They arrive at the compound to find it empty except for the hostages that were left behind. It's not the victory they wanted, but it's not a complete loss either. James realizes that Suleiman was aware of the doctor's relationship with the president, and that he's turned the doctor into a biological weapon, using that relationship to get them in the same room. Oh no! Jack Ryan opens up to Kathy about the memory that haunts him. He confesses that it was him who decided to bring the child on the helicopter that took it down and killed everyone on board. Musa arrives in the United States with his son, and his final plan begins to unfold. Radioactive material is discovered by a dock worker, which leaves everyone wondering what their target will be. One of Suleiman's men blows up a pizzeria to create enough chaos for an ambulance to move around unnoticed, not unlike the one he's traveling around in. The ever-observant Jack Ryan notices that this explosion is causing a ton of ambulances to head straight to the same hospital that the president is at. Jack and James call in the bomb threat, and all phones are immediately jammed by security forces to prevent any remote detonating of bombs. Suleiman intends to not only kill the president, but all of the other officials in the building by installing a dirty bomb in the ventilation system. Jack searches the building for anything out of ordinary and finds a body. That confirms it. There's definitely something going on here. While trying to escape from the building, Suleiman's son is captured. Jack Ryan spots Suleiman and pursues him on foot. Suleiman tries to use his cell phone to detonate the bomb, but nearby cell towers have been shut down to prevent exactly that. Finally, Jack gets a clean shot and kills Suleiman, neutralizing the threat. James tells Jack that he did good, for an analyst. And Jack delivers on his promise to return Haneen's son to her. The season concludes with Greer being promoted to a position in Moscow and Jack being offered Greer's job. Greer leaves behind a notebook to help Jack get caught up to speed on his old job. But that's not the only thing in that binder. There's also a ticket to Moscow just in case Jack wants to join Greer, and I hope he does. These two are amazing together. Thanks for watching. Please consider giving us a like and a sub so you can be notified when future videos come out.